Welcome back, everyone. Today is our second episode in our study on the book of Romans. We're going to be looking at Romans 1:17 today, just one verse today. We will not always do that. Sometimes we will go through a whole chapter or half a chapter. These first couple of days, we're just going to look at one verse at a time. So we're looking at Romans 1:17 today. Yesterday, we looked at Romans 1:16, and we looked at the gospel being the power of God unto salvation. And we defined the word salvation. We compared it to deliverance and redemption and the story of the Exodus and a lot of these Old Testament stories about the children of Israel being set free from bondage, and how that is a parable or an object lesson about how we are set free from sin. So you might be asking yourself, how do I actually live a life where I am set free from my old bondage and my old bad habits? Well, today we're going to answer that question, and that is why it's found as the very next verse in Romans chapter 1. So Romans 1:17 is where we're looking. Here it is. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith. As it is written, the just shall live by faith. Okay, we're going to dig into that verse here in just a second, but let's look at the meaning of faith, because sometimes I think we see the word faith and we think of something that is not necessarily what the Bible is thinking of. Maybe the Bible has more than what we think of when we think of faith. So I'm going to turn to the faith chapter, Hebrews 11. Everyone, most Bible scholars recognize this is the chapter of the heroes of faith, right? I recommend reading the whole thing. We're not going to do that all today. But let's look at a few verses. And as we read these, I want you to notice what they all have in common. We're not even going to read the whole verses. We're going to read pieces of them. So we'll start with Hebrews chapter 11, verse 4. It says, by faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. So by faith, Abel offered a sacrifice. Verse 7. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not yet seen, moved with fear and prepared an ark. Okay, by faith, Noah built an ark. You can go on. Verse 8, by faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed and he went out. So Abraham was told, go to the promised land. He went by faith. Verse 17, by faith, Abraham again, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. So he offered his son as a sacrifice. And we could go on. There's more examples of this. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. Okay, so what do all these things have in common? If you're an astute student, and I'm sure you are, you will notice that all of these things are actions. Every single one of these things are action. By faith, Abel offered. By faith, Noah built. By faith, Abraham went, right? All these things are actions, but they are actions that were done by faith. Now, you're starting to see the connection maybe with Romans 1:17. The just shall live by faith. Living is an action, right? And it's not just any type of life, it's the life of the just. And the word just means righteous. That's what it means. Go ahead and do a Hebrew parallelism. Study that. Find all the times the word just is used in the Bible and compare it. And you'll see the word just, it means righteous. So how do you live a righteous life? The just shall live by faith. That's how it's done. It's not by your own strength. It's not by your own power or anything like that. It is by faith. The only way in the Old Testament that the heroes of faith were able to do all the mighty things that they did was by the power of God, and they had faith in the power of God. They simply acted on God's commands that he commanded them. But they did it all by faith. And let's look at some more examples. And you'll see it's all actions that are done by faith. So starting in verse 32, and what shall I say more? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson, Jephthah and David, also and Samuel and of the prophets, who through faith, notice all these actions, subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouth of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, blah, 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 right? It keeps going on. All of these things are actions that were done by faith. So how do you live a just life? When God comes to you and says, I am going to set you free from the bondage of sin, and you say, whoa, how do I do that? It's actually not you, it's him. It's you just acting it out by faith. It's his power, your actions, but you must act by faith. All of these things that were done. When Noah built the ark, he was building it by faith. When Abel offered, he offered it by faith. When Abraham left to go to the promised land, he obeyed by faith. That's what it means when it says the just shall live by faith. These are actions that are done by faith. Now, just to show that we're on the right path. And all I'm saying is that to live a righteous life, you must do so by faith, not your own power, but God's power. Do it by faith. Just to show that we're on the right path, notice this, which I passed over quickly before, but in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 33, it says, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, or worked righteousness. So how do you do righteousness? By just trying hard, by your own strength, by your own goodness? No, there's no good in you. It's by faith. That's the only way you do it. So you see that there is power in this passage in Romans. Let's look back at Romans. Romans 1:17. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. How do you live a just life? How do you have access to that power of God unto salvation that sets you free from the bondage of sin? By faith. By faith. That's how you do it. You know, how do you receive Jesus? The Bible says by faith. Well, it also says, as ye therefore have received the Lord, so walk ye in him. Well, how did you receive him? By faith. So how do you walk in him? By faith. The just shall live by faith. So trust him, trust his word, trust the promises, and he will empower you. That's our message for today. And I really think that Romans 1:16 and 17 properly understood, you understand the gospel in a nutshell. And the rest of the book of Romans is really just going through with object lessons. You will see as we go along, Paul tells this same message over and over and over again. And once you understand that that's what he's saying, all of the confusion that people have on Paul's relationship between the law and faith and God, the gospel and all these things, it all becomes clear once you understand what he's saying from the very beginning. And he's just going to use a bunch of object lessons throughout the rest of the book to make the same point over and over again. It's very simple, and it's summed up in these two verses. All right, tomorrow we're going to look at the rest of the chapter of Romans 1. Take care. God bless.